What are your thoughts on Bitcoin?
I'm a big fan of Bitcoin.
Should the U.S. do a Bitcoin reserve?
Absolutely, yes. Yes, the United States should have a strategic Bitcoin reserve.
And who should pay for the Bitcoin reserve?
That's a good question. Hopefully, some of the tariff money could potentially do that. The reason why I think we should have a strategic Bitcoin reserve, I know you guys had Michael Saylor on your show, and I think he's onto something. There is something called like the mass adoption theory, which is over a period of time, like the English language, US dollar, things just catch on and they're just kind of volitional and there's no stopping it. I think Bitcoin is that. You got to watch out though. Quantum computing could potentially crack cryptography.
But if they do that, then they're also cracking bank accounts.
Right.
And stock trading accounts.
So quantum is the only asterisk on all this. But I think Saylor is onto something very profound, which is that because Bitcoin is a legitimately scarce resource, that it's probably going to go nowhere but up. So Saylor makes a very provocative argument that Bitcoin could go up 10x over the next 10 years or something like that, which therefore, if we start a Bitcoin strategic reserve, it could pay for the national debt and basically cover our losses on the deficit. But I think that I think the United States government should be invested in crypto without a doubt.
I tend to agree with Michael Saylor that it's more likely to go to 1 million than 0.
Yes, I think that's right. And by the way, so you have a problem of the world's richest people. They don't know where to put their money. So there's only so many penthouses in London and Paris that they could buy. There's only so many ranches in Wyoming that they could buy. And so we've had this problem. So you create all this money, the money goes upwards to wealth inequality point, to your earlier point. The question is then, well, what do rich people do with money? There's only so many equities they can buy. There's only so many shares in NVIDIA and Apple and Microsoft they could justify. Well, money needs to find a home, and it's found a home in Bitcoin. And so once it has mass adoption and literally the wealthiest families on the planet are starting to park serious monies in Bitcoin. And because it's scarce, it's easy to transfer, and it's just a winner. Sometimes there's a mass adoption and it just rises to the surface. And I think Bitcoin is that.
Speaking of the national debt, at what point do you think it's going to become a major problem?
I think it already is.
Do you see any solvable way that we could address this? Because it seems as though if Trump's big, beautiful bill passes, it's just going to get 2 trillion higher.
Yeah, so that's over 10 years. So I do find issue with some of those estimates. I don't want to get too deep into that. That's kind of a wonky, we'll lose the audience on CBO estimates, Congressional Budget Office estimates.
Right.
I think we need to cut a lot more spending. I wish more Republicans wanted to agree. I know Donald Trump agrees. He's just very frustrated with some of the Republicans on Capitol Hill that don't want to cut it. So here's the worst thing we could do, though. The worst thing we could do out of all the options is not grow. So the worst of all the options is not grow. So when you have a big debt, that's bad. Not growing with a big debt is catastrophic. Growing with a big debt is somewhat manageable. Growing with cutting your debt is awesome. That would be the best possible scenario. So the calculus is, okay, we have a big debt. Let's at least try to have the debt outpace 2 things. The rate of the increase of the debt to GDP ratio and the rate of inflation. If GDP can grow faster than inflation and grow faster than the rate of the debt to GDP ratio, then we're in a manageable place. So that's what the premise of a lot of these tax cuts of the bill is, right? No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, right? The depreciation, the extension of the Trump tax cuts, all of which I support because you need a pro-growth agenda. Because when you're a debtor nation and you have no growth, then you're going to be in a really bad spot.
What happened to DOGE? It just seemed
I don't think it's done.
No?
But first of all, I think Elon did a lot of good work.
Yeah.
I really did. First of all, I think Elon's greatest contribution was a philosophical one. I think Elon made us all realize how much waste there is and how much we really need to kind of get into the details of how much the government is inefficient from a technological standpoint, from a efficiency standpoint. So I don't think it's over by any means. I think DOGE is a cultural mindset that is going to be hopefully around the Republican Party for years to come.
It just seemed like Congress didn't really have that big of an incentive to do anything about it. What was most surprising, Elon said that he just wanted people to code and write in a description of where the money went. Because right now you could basically just leave it blank, send money, and not write what the purpose of the money is for.
Yes.
And he just said, just put something in there. And he said he was up against just a wall, that they didn't even mandate that.
It's a very complicated. So yeah, that's right. And so there is
common sense to just type what it's for.
There's so much waste in the federal government, and my hope is that we can start to rein it in the next couple of months and couple of years. It's a beast, though, guys. I mean, this is it is a wild monster that is hard to rein in. And I know that sounds like cope and an excuse, but you have an entrenched permanent bureaucracy of millions of people. And then you have judges that are preventing literally the Trump administration from doing some of this stuff. You have federal judges that are coming in and preventing, President Donald Trump from being like, nope, I want to lay off these workers. Nope, I want to cut this aid. Nope, I want to cut this, which of course is unconstitutional. So yes, I mean, it would be nice. Here's the goal. The goal would be we need to blockchain the entire federal government, put the entire federal government on blockchain. And then number two, every dime of federal spending online in real time. We should know what everybody is spending in real time, no different than a transparent federal database.
Could that be a national security risk in any way?
There are certain things you could black box for sure. But I think that people deserve to know on a day-by-day, month-by-month basis, what is the Department of Interior spending? Are they going? What are the Veterans Affairs spending money on? We should know. Are they buying $50 hammers? Are they buying $200 bandages? I think it's our money. This is the whole problem I have with this whole thing. This is our money. It is you watching money. We are the ones that earn the money. It is not the government's money. We are the sovereign. We create the government. We earn the money, and then the government extracts it from us with our consent, right? Because we vote and we have elections, whatever. So we have a right to know where that money goes. It doesn't magically become the government's money.
I guess part of the problem is that there's no penalty for overspending. It's like a credit card. The limit just keeps getting higher and higher and higher. Right. So why is there?
It's actually even worse than that. There's an incentive to keep spending more. In fact, the incentive in Washington, D.C. is that you have one wing that wants to spend money on more war, which is the Republican Party warmongering caucus, which I'm at war with. And then you have a whole other thing, which is the welfare caucus. So you have the warfare welfare caucuses. So the warfare guys want to go invade the world. The welfare caucus wants to go put the entire world on welfare. What can they both agree on? We'll authorize your warfare if you authorize our welfare. We all spend more money and we get our pet projects done. And then we're going to go invade the world. And they're like, so the welfare people say, don't invade the world. But if you invade the world, can we invite the world? So they say, it's okay if you go invade the country, but then we can have a couple million more people into the country. And then the warfare people are like, we don't like that. We'll do that. But the welfare people, but then we got to put them on welfare. And literally, this is the uniparty bipartisan agreement the last 30 years. Every major public policy budgetary debate comes down to an agreement between the warfare and the welfare wing of the two parties.
So there's no way to solve that, right?
First of all, I would not. No, actually,
that's impossible.
Yes, that's very.
The way you described it, I agree with you completely. But
look, the reason I say no is that I am not a cynic. I'm a super optimist. I've never been more optimistic on the country. Let me tell you why. I saw insane doomerism a year ago. They're never going to let Trump win. They're going to try to take him out. And I saw doomerism die. And so I think one of his greatest contributions is he's really pushed the art of the possible. Actually, no, you can do dramatic things. You can change stuff. But yes, to your answer, it's going to be very big. It is climbing a major mountain. Massive.
Do you worry about the U.S. dollar?
Of course, absolutely.
And what do you think is the most likely outcome? Because I would like to think positively, but at the same time, I think realistically, it's just going to be printed.
As one of my friends and heroes, Tony Robbins, would say, I don't tell you to go to your garden and say, there's no weeds, there's no weeds, there's no weeds. I tell you to spot the weeds and pull them out. So I'm not delusional. I'm an optimist. I try to find the best case story of how things can be told. Then have us have human agency and action to actually do it. So with the U.S. dollar, look, the U.S. dollar as the world reserve currency has gone down dramatically in the last 20 years. President Donald Trump is focused on breaking up BRICS. So BRICS is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. South Africa is the DEI pick. Why South Africa is considered to be some sort of world, that's a joke for the record. Some sort of world currency power. It's a freaking joke, okay? All right, India. Easy to peel away. We already have great relations with India. J.D. Vance did a state visit to India that was not very reported. Donald Trump, by the way, he stopped the India-Pakistan war. He deserves huge credit for that. That thing was simmering up and was going to be incredible and big. And so then Brazil. Brazil's a disaster. Lula is a complete Marxist and communist. Bolsonaro should still be prime minister. So then you have Russia and China. So Brazil, Russia, China. The best case telling is we can end this Russian-Ukrainian war and hopefully try to create a little bit of separation and daylight between the ever-growing marriage of Russia and China, which is bad for America, it's bad for the West, it's bad for the world. And so we should want the U.S. dollar to remain the world reserves currency status. It is imperative. Our, I think, reckless involvement in the United States with the Russian-Ukrainian war has only led to de-dollarization. We took Russia out of the SWIFT banking system. Basically, we took their dollars out of their bank accounts. We confiscated their dollars. What does that do to every other nation that uses dollars as their world reserve currency status? We're no longer a safe haven. We never should have done that, guys. Regardless of how bad Putin is for invading Ukraine and all that stuff, basically we de-incentivize people to trust the dollar as a safe haven. Basically we said, oh, if you misbehave, we might take away your dollars.